Midnight Misfits go to a mansion, seemingly somewhere in the Florida swamps, to rehearse for a big show. Playing in front of 50,000 people, are you serious? But then Eden makes the mistake of taking a dip in something that qualifies as a lake. And now she's possessed and taking out all of her bandmates and best friends. So take these spirit springs, put your contacts in so your eyes glow across the silver screen, and take these spirit springs and have some bad mic'd up actors and special effects that make me see Spirit Springs as a micro-budget horror flick that tries to be inoffensive, but unfortunately has about this much material for its 80-minute runtime. Take these Spirit Springs! Spirit Springs is currently streaming on Tubi. It was written and directed by John Eagle, or John K. Eagle Jr. as listed on these credits. Why don't you have the same name regardless of the website? Anyway, that being said, you have a band called the Midnight Misfits that are going anywhere. Actually, they're just going to a Florida mansion. The house looks kind of nice. I don't know if I would qualify that as a mansion, but nevertheless, it's on a lake, and they're going to rehearse before going to a big show. But then Eden, the main lead, as opposed to the not main lead, of Ariana Rose, who I have to say at least seems to be having a little bit of fun with her role here, I'll say that much. And for somebody, I think she was born like 2005, she seems to get the campy nature of horror, so that's good. She is the lead singer of Midnight Misfits. Her and a bandmate Cassidy, Tyler Charlie, who I appreciated the red hair, I really did. Reminded me of a girl I used to work with. They were kind of sniping at each other. There's another guy named Tyler. And there's also a very high guy named Ryan that I want to call Weed Torgo because he basically just shows up like fucking Torgo. And from there, we basically get montages of either their music or someone else's music. Like, camcorder footage. Maybe 1.5 songs from this band. And then eventually a ghost shows up. Kinda, maybe, sorta. Look, I recognize when movies are basically just micro-budget horror flicks with an idea to get your vision out there. And this movie is inoffensive, but this movie also is incredibly cheap and is best watched on a streaming service like Tubi. It gets your product out there, it gets your vision out there, and I look forward to seeing what else the writer-director does, because one film like this doesn't mean that everything is going to be bad. But yeah, this is pretty goddamn cheap and ridiculous and features a lot of silly editing. And honestly, I understand micro budget, but if you can't mic up your actors properly, there's something a little bit wrong with that. There were points where I thought maybe something was wrong with my TV or something was wrong with my, media console or even my router. And no, there was nothing wrong with that. The few reviews I've seen have said basically the same thing. So get some buddies together, watch this, and enjoy the fact that you get to eventually see a little bit of violence. It's silly, it's goopy, it's, again, inoffensive, but it also doesn't have enough material to justify a full-length feature. Also, they really just shove everything in like the last 20 to 25 minutes, and especially in the last 10, with an ending that we can all see coming 5,000 miles away. So anyway, it's on Tubi. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, we open with a guy named Blake screaming, and then glowing eyes and everything, and then we go back to the beginning, because we see what happens with Blake later on. Blake is a blonde hair guy doing the filming. And again, Miss Rose does fine as Eden. She at least gets the assignment here. I don't think anybody thought they were doing high class stuff, and it's not like low class, offensive. It's just bland. Why does the dialogue sound like it was done in post? Is what I noted. I noted that Blake was probably possessed, but no, he's not. I did really find it funny that we kept cutting back and forth between film and credits for a good 3.5 minutes. And there were endless stretches of film that felt like they were padding, just straight up padding. So there's a guy named Tyler that was part of a group, I think, called Sudden Rose or Celine Rose. I don't really remember, and I don't really care. But he is essentially just, he's kind of like an 80s punk rocker plucked straight out of that era. I actually thought he was in Near Dark. So Near Dark, yeah, Near Dark. That was a vampire movie. And Jamie, who is the social media leader, has a backstory. Like her dad didn't want her to drop out of college, but she didn't drop out. And then it's never referenced again, at least until about the third act of the movie. 50% of the first 20 minutes is just most of the stuff I mentioned. The montages, the other stuff. They arrive at this place, and then this blue hand shows up, or blue or green hand shows up, the spirit hand, and whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It is what it is. And this house has 8 bedrooms and 8 baths. I don't believe that. I mean, maybe the house did and they just didn't shoot much of it. It looked maybe like it was 3 and 3, but I digress. I don't really understand why in the world any of this like was stretched out this far. Had this been part of like an anthology, like a 80-minute anthology, had to spend like 20 minutes, I might have bought a little bit more into it. But essentially, Eden takes a dip. She gets with Alex. And this is after Eden and Cassidy have been fighting because Mother, the girls are fighting again. I will say that unless it is someone else's voice, Miss Rose can sort of sing. So I don't actually know if this is an actual band or not. But if she does have a singing career, then I wish her nothing but the best as well. I guess Tyler and Ryan are brothers, or at least brothers from other mothers. A lot of this stuff is just thrown out and doesn't really necessarily register or matter. I noted rather that the spirit looks like a Scooby-Doo villain, just with the glowing eyes and everything. You have expected everybody to gather around. Okay, gang, let's see who this spirit really is. Ryan, it was you all along, but you got eaten before. So, I know until about halfway through, so remember when this had like a glowing-eyed spirit for like a few seconds and then a glowing hand? There is a sign, by the way, this is after they swim in there. Like, so you got Eden and you got Alex, and they sort of get together kind of a little bit of the physicality, but then the spirit, Scooby-Doo spirit, interrupts, and then later they're wandering around this swamp area, because I think 50% of Florida is swamps, and they get to this other spring where Eden really wants to take a dip. But then Alex is reading this very, very lengthy sign that basically warns about spirits and everything, that if they like you, they will favor you well. If not, you will not be marked for death, but for possession. That's a pretty odd sign to put there. But whatever. There's weird stuff going on in this world. I could buy that, except it really just looked more like a park sign, like pick up your litter and stuff like that. But nevertheless. So, Eden gets a cut on her foot, and then is suddenly passed out. Everybody's freaking out. Tyler and Alex fight. Mother, the idiots are fighting again. And I mean idiot characters. I don't even hate this so much I'm going to knock any of the cast members or any of the crew, which is probably a small crew at best. I wouldn't be too surprised if some of the actors actually served as members of the crew, because it seemed like a small production. That's fine. It is what it is. Get your film made however you can, as long as it's through legal methods and as long as you treat people right. But then we see Eden doing the possessed thing and stuff like that and whatever. And everybody's freaking out, wondering if they should go anywhere. And then suddenly, Eden is standing across from a projected version of herself. It looks like it was made on the first ever Windows Movie Maker, like Windows Movie Maker 85. But whatever. It's all right. And I know that Eden was doing yoga at one point when she was possessed. That just seemed very painful, what she was doing. But it's all right. What are they? Water spirits, sirens, bad projections? Probably all three. We are nowhere and everywhere. I love that Fleetwood Mac song as well. And Eden basically just acts fine for a little bit, and then acts totally bitchy after waking up fully. Bites Ryan, kills him. So Weed Torgo is down, and then just starts killing everybody indiscriminately. Why? Because they're all bad people, I guess. Blake ended up, you know, showing up, and there's Miss Rose like laying all like this, like she's on the cover of some romance novel or some um magazine cover, like, come on over here and everything, this kind of stuff. Whatever, it's all right. Again, understanding the assignment. And he says, you, Ryan, you tried to eat me. Oh my God. And then Tyler and Cassidy briefly get together. They share like one kiss. Tyler takes some of the water, by the way. Blake gets killed and drug in the water after he said that line. And then the cops show up, because the cops were called earlier. One cop who seemed like they got off their shift at Office Max, just changed their shirt. Or got off their shift at a golf course. I mean, you couldn't even try to make it look like a real cop uniform. I mean, come on. Anyway, the cop basically confronts Eden. Eden, being this water spirit possessed person, knows all about the dead son of the cop, and this is just thrown out there to distract the cop so she gets her guts ripped out, which actually really just looks like she has a giant black intestinal dick inside her, but whatever. However you get down. And Cassidy gets strangled. Nobody else is. I mean, I know there aren't too many people left, but nobody was like, "Hey, we should probably stick together." No, we'll just let the redhead die, the cute redhead die. So Tyler then had taken some of the water earlier before Cassidy had gotten killed, and decided he was going to drink it, because I guess he figured out this whole thing about possession and was going to find a way to knock it out of Eden. Alex, get Eden out of here. I'll take this and fall into the goddamn water. So I guess he sacrificed himself. But oh ho ho, no, Alex carries Eden off for miles on this road, by the way, so it is truly the long walk. I think you probably could have gotten the keys or hot-wired one of the vehicles, but I digress. Everybody suddenly wakes up. Blake gets out of the water. Jamie, I believe, wakes up and she's fine. There was a little bit of an earlier scene where Eden pretended to be her dad after her dad yelled at her about this stuff, and that was really the only other time that was referenced. And then we see shots of everybody. And Eden also is possessed. And that is Spirit Springs. My God. How did I get any material out of that? This will not be on my worst horror movies of the year list. It's definitely not good. I mean, it's inoffensive. Parts of it are lazy. There is at least effort in a couple parts. Like, I did appreciate the part when things finally kicked in and Miss Rose was able to try to have a little bit of fun with it. But yeah, this wasn't very good. It gets an F, sorry. Letterboxd reviews up there. One of the only Letterboxd reviews that film has. But let's support independent filmmakers. Now, if you end up hating this movie and don't want to see any of their other stuff, fine. I'm willing to give everybody a shot, because I have been surprised when films have actually turned out good. I've also been surprised when films don't even reach my very low expectations that are in the Earth's core. So yeah, F. Again, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentland, and until we spring again, happy trails to you.